Younts. Welcome to the DMF, and this is part one.
My pillow on the back.
Welcome to the DMF, Discovering Meaning in Film and Acting. I am thrilled to welcome an actress, an acting coach, a casting director, and author. She has coached many actors on auditions and acting with her studio, Mel Mack Acting Studios. Her book, 101 Acting Tips, giving actors valuable information on the craft and business of acting. Please welcome to the DMF, Mel Mack. How are you doing?
Great, Justin. Thanks for having me here. I appreciate it.
Well, thank you. I appreciate this. So my first question is, where did you grow up?
I grew up in Buffalo, New York.
Cool. What was that like?
Awesome. Buffalo's awesome. It
Yeah.
always gets a bad rap because of the snow and the lake
Mm,
effect. But when you grow up in an area that has a massive amount of snow back in the day,
mm.
you learn to ice skate and ski and sled and toboggan and drive a car on the lake that's wildly dangerous.
Wow.
Yeah.
So did that just, do you think that that influenced you? Because being in like kind of, would you consider it a small town, or it's not really a small town, but it's,
Buffalo's not a small town. I grew up there and then we moved to a small town called Medina,
ah,
New York. So Medina's between Rochester and Buffalo. That's a small town.
okay. So what was that like switching between the two?
It was a big deal for me.
Yeah.
I remember we didn't have the 4-H club where I went
Mm,
to school in Buffalo. Medina had that. It was very, very rural. I loved
yeah.
it.
So you
Maybe
liked, so you enjoyed the transition.
I was young enough. I think I was in fourth grade, fifth grade, where I still hadn't really establish those friendships that you do in high school.
Yeah.
Right? So, yeah, I mean, I just kind of found my way. I was an only kid. I was a latchkey kid,
Cool.
kind of did my own thing. Yeah.
So what attracted you to acting?
I didn't go to school for acting. I didn't do any of that
Mm,
until I was living in, where was I living? Jacksonville, Florida. And I worked at Hooters and I was working at Hooters.
I love that.
I love Hooters. I loved working at Hooters. It was one of the best waiting jobs I ever had. I worked there for 5
Yeah.
years in Hooters.
Oh,
In
wow.
Florida. But I remember somebody said, "Oh, you would be great in commercials."
Mm,
So my thought was, "Oh, I should do that." So I just
yeah.
kind of figured out how to do that.
Wow. So did you go to like an acting coach or anything? You just, it just kind of like fell into your lap and you just went head first into it.
I I moved to Hollywood,
Mm,
Florida,
okay.
and I
The
had
other
an actor
Hollywood.
there, the other Hollywood. Gigi was her name, and that was my first
Mm,
introduction, really. I mean, I did a play in junior high or high school,
yeah.
but that was my first introduction to theater. I'm like, this is not my jam. I need to
Yeah.
find something on camera. So I ended up finding John and Linda Fiore. They used to own this workshop studio where they would have casting directors. This was way back in the day. So they
Yeah.
would have casting directors fly out from LA and New York and uh, local casting directors. And I remember meeting a manager there, and he was the manager to be with in my area. I'm like, oh, I'm going to get with him. And I just, you're
Yeah.
so, when you're bold and brave and green,
Yeah.
there was a beauty to it because I just walked up to him after this workshop and said, "Oh, I want you to rep me. How does that work?"
I love that. I love that. So many actors would just be like, will you please rap? But you were just like, no, I'm just going
What do I need to
straight
do?
for it. And I think a lot of it comes from being also a waitress, because you have to be, you have to go forward. When I meet, waiters and waitresses, I always ask them, I'm like, why is it you can assess somebody's physical, like whether they're in a bad mood or not, even before you've even met them? And they always are just like, it's just something that just like kind of comes and I think that that probably helped you, that you're just like, I'm just going for it.
For sure.
There's a lot of actors, I'm sure, coaching so many actors that you have, you've probably seen them. Very few would probably be like, just that bold, because everybody's so terrified of like, am I worthy to be in this in your
Ah,
presence type of thing?
it's true. And A lot of places teach that out of you, which is a
Yeah.
shame. I had an actress in my signature class in last
Mm.
November. And she came to me because I know her agent. So her agent sent her to us and said, hey, listen, she's really brand new, but she has this innate talent. I love working with actors like that.
Yeah.
So my class, other people were at different levels in that class. So she came into the first class, and I always like to start like, hey, does anybody have anything to share? Blah, blah, blah. And she said, oh, I do. She said, so I want to be, I want to be in X commercial. Let's just say it was Pepsi. I want to be in a
Yeah.
Pepsi. I said, oh, I like that goal. So how can we get you there? She's like, oh, I called them. I was like, what? She's like, oh, yeah, I called them and I talked to somebody and said, I want to be in a commercial for you guys. Who do I need to talk to? So they like put her through to like somebody
Wow.
that was really high up in the company. And they said, oh, that would be our casting department. Who she was like, okay. And they said, hey, just send over your headshot and resume. And she
That's,
must have done this now with at least 8 companies.
yeah.
She's just taking big swings. I love it. I
I
really,
love that too. That's actors. That's what you need to do, you know?
it's
And
all
you're
great.
right. They try to coach that out of you. Sometimes I go to these acting workshops or whatever, and it's just like you almost feel like you're standing on eggshells. It's like, oh, don't
Yeah.
crack there. You know, it's just like at some point you have to be bold and brave and just go out there. And if you make a mistake, you're going to make a mistake. But the worst thing is just, I see it as like analysis by paralysis type of thing, where like you've got you're listening to all this information, and then you're scared to move. It's like you've identified all the chess moves, but you're like, oh, I don't know which one do I go with if I go here, you know?
Yeah. I talk about that in my book,
Yeah.
Analysis.
Yeah,
I
you
talk
do.
about that because it runs across the board. It happens when you are networking. It happens when you're putting together your marketing. It happens when you're performing. So
Yeah.
it's really about overall knowing what your goal is
Yeah.
and put together a plan to get there and then to be open to how it comes to you, because I don't know a lot of people
Yeah.
who went the one way. To read Matthew, you probably have read Matthew McConaughey's book Green
Read
Lights.
some of it. Yeah. Yeah, it's a really interesting
I
book.
mean, so many actors have that story,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Because these are the things I need to do, but I'm also going to open the door to these other opportunities and just kind of go for it.
Yeah. And one of the things he talks about in that book is when he was first coming to Hollywood, they were like, don't act like you need help. Act
Yeah.
like you already are there, because they want to help you if you already got your stuff going. And that's so true. I mean, it's kind of sad that that's how we are as a society. They were like, oh, no, we're not going to help you. But if you look like you've got your stuff going on, it's like, oh, yes, let me help you with this. It's so sad that we
But
do
it's
that.
like that with any business. I have a
It
friend right
is.
now, son has graduated and is getting into finance and is
Mm,
around a group of men that are extremely well versed in finance and very, very wealthy. And they're
yeah.
older, maybe in their 70s and 80s. And because her son, he's kind of raw, New York City gritty, but
Yeah.
he SHIT. And these guys are eating it up because he hasn't just graduated from the Wharton School of Business and is doing all the things right. He's just himself. Like, yeah, you want to go
Yeah.
fishing?
Yeah. Taking it back to acting. It's like, the person, so many casting directors will talk about how you're seeing the same thing over and over again. And then somebody takes that risk, whether by accident or intentional, and it makes you stand out. Now, you don't want to always intentionally go for that. This is but if the more specific you are, the harder it's going to be for somebody to come and do what you just did. The
Mhm.
specificity will make that thing. But I just love that part in McConaughey. But transitioning back to you now, um, being, in Hollywood, Florida, and, acting and trying to do that. What was that like? Because it's different from today where, I don't know, YouTube probably may have just been starting out. Like what was because I watched all your films as well. I watched everything I could. except for one.
Like all my videos on YouTube,
Except for no. All your film
television.
work. Like I watched your Beverly Hills 90210 thing.
Right.
There was one I couldn't find, but we'll leave that one to the to the imagination. You know what I'm
Oh,
talking
I think I know
about.
what you're talking about. That was
Yeah.
never supposed to air, and then it was on Showtime. So
Yeah,
exciting.
yeah, that was the one. I had a few things I couldn't find, but watching you on Beverly Hills with you were with Eva Longoria. You guys were playing the flight attendants, and you tell off what's his name, Luke Perry or whatever, you
Yeah,
know.
back in the day.
Yeah,
Yeah. I think for any actor, I don't want to say it's a struggle,
yeah,
but it is. And
yeah,
it's also not that different from other avenues outside of the entertainment industry. The difference for me is you could be the best, and it doesn't mean that you're going to book the job.
yeah,
It's very different than you can be the best Olympian and win the
yeah,
gold unless you
yeah.
fall like that happen,
But
right?
you could be the best, accountant and still not get the same thing. So it's similar to the real world than it is. But we seem to think everything's like kind of a meritocracy, like it's that
Right.
we're in this like Olympic game. Oh, if I'm the best, it's like it's not really always that. What was it? I read a quote. Al Pacino said, "It's not always the best actor who gets it, and it's true. It's a sad thing to say, but I think it should inspire people to just go be bold, you know, like you said, you went out to that, actor and was like, yeah, you want to rep me?
Went up to that manager, said, "Oh, you're the best here." And I went with that manager. And then eventually I took a
Yeah,
workshop, and the head of casting at NBC saw me in that workshop in Hollywood, Florida. And I was working at Hooters and I think another job as well. And it's
yeah,
just the grind
yeah,
where I hope I can put gas in my car. Oh, I
yeah,
hope I can pay rent. And when this casting director called me at home when you had a landline and said, "Hey, do you want to come out to Los Angeles? Let me see if I can help you get representation." I was like, "Yeah, let's go."
yeah,
So I went out to Los Angeles. I didn't know anybody at the time. And my manager flew out. And that's when I realized that the agent had way more contacts than the manager. And I had to fire the manager because, again, it's a business. And I
yeah,
think a lot of acting schools, not I think, I know a lot of acting schools and universities teach acting. There's nothing wrong with that, but they
I,
don't teach the business of acting and the audition side of the craft, right? How to
yeah,
consistently deliver under real casting director deadlines, giving you real notes inside of that callback room, and the real pressure that an actor is under when they're performing. It's such a different beast
yeah,
than booking the job. It's so different than when you're on set.
yeah. And I went to conservatory, so I went to Neighborhood Playhouse. I went to Lee Strasberg Theater and Film Institute for a year. I did both years there, and 1 year there and 1 year out. And you're right, they don't talk enough about the business. They kind of expect that to like come, and it's like that might have worked in the '60s, back in the when these schools came, because the casting directors would spend 15 minutes maybe with you. There was some time that they would spend with you because it wasn't so capitalism hadn't just taken over. It wasn't like the 80s where we really see the push of like now time is money. I mean, it always mattered, but you really start to see it in that point, and it's only continued through there. So you got to come in and do that, and the schools don't prepare you for that. They don't put you through that. They think that, oh, at the end of the year we'll bring in a couple of acting
Right.
agents and say, hey, here's a showcase. Like, that's not what it's like. It's not like that.
Right.
It's that deadline of like, here you go. One of the things that I love that you emphasized in all of your videos is being off book. So many
Mhm.
people don't want to be off book, and it's like, how can you act if you're not off book? It's better to be wrong on the line on the line than it is to just be like, oh, I got everything perfect. Here it's like, once again, be bold. But there's so many people that don't want to. I'll talk to casting directors and they'll tell me, it's like, yeah, they had it for a week and they still aren't off book. And it's like, I've had it for like a day and I've figured out some way to get it off book because it's just, I'm one of those guys that just I don't say no. I just am like, whatever you want, whatever you want, I'll get it in there. As soon as I say, I can't do it, then it's like, oh, he's one of those actors. So I'm just always like that. But at conservatory, they don't put that kind of pressure on you that you need to learn to do that. And I think that that's why somebody who comes from, waitressing or comes from a very high demand business is able to acclimate to that kind of environment, as opposed to conservatory where it's just like, oh yeah, I did that. I got my scenes. I got this. You see the same thing with people that come out of college, and it's just like they're not preparing that, and I don't think they're doing that even today.
They're
It's
not.
like
There's so
it's
many actors that I will meet with who are currently in college. And I also want to say theater programs, acting programs at universities and colleges are very valid. There's
yeah,
like look at Tisch School. So
yeah,
many actors that come out of there are brilliant. And that's necessary. However, there's a big gap between the business side and the acting side. Yes, I love that there's a showcase at the end, but how are you teaching people to utilize those connections,
exactly.
right? And that's the disconnect for me. And pretty
Mm.
much why I started my acting studio
Yeah.
14 years ago.
Well, you just answered one of my questions right there. Is why did you? How did you? Yeah, transition into creating your acting studio?
I was in Los Angeles acting, auditioning, doing the whole audition grind. It was different. I wanted to circle back to that,
Mm.
where it was different back then because it was pre 9/11. So,
Mm.
you would go on the lot to audition. I haven't been in LA. I'm guessing it is still that way because a lot of casting offices are on the actual lot. So it's a
Mm.
different experience, Los Angeles versus New York. I feel like
Yeah.
it's a Hollywood experience as an actor. But I felt like every audition I was quitting. Like I'd sit in my car and cry. It was awful. It was like the first audition I think I got with my new big fancy agent in LA was 90210. And I
Mm.
was so nervous because there were so many people in the room. It was the
Yeah.
first episode of the season. Tori Spelling was directing. So she was
Oh.
in there, like everybody was in there. The writers, you don't know who everybody is.
Yeah.
And I remember walking into that room and being really like, oh my gosh, I'm not prepared for this. And I had a bag with me, I had a prop with me, and I was the end that I walked into the wall. I couldn't even find the door.
Oh wow.
And everybody started laughing. And I took it like I was awful. They were laughing at me.
Oh,
I'm so embarrassed. And I remember going out to my car, like, I have to quit. Every time I felt like that, I booked the job. I felt the exact
yeah.
same way on Will and Grace. I actually called and had
Yeah.
let my agent know I'm going to be quitting after this. Oh, really? Yeah. I was like, that really didn't go well. And within 2 hours, he called me back. So
Yeah.
you booked it. What? I was like, that's impossible. I did not book that.
And you're opposite Madonna too.
I
That
couldn't
would
believe
be
it was so under wraps. And that was when they used to send the script to your house.
Yeah.
And I remember they said, oh, they don't want to release who the guest star is. I thought, oh God, it's going to be Cher. It was
Oh
so
no. No, but somebody just as big.
even
Wow.
I could not even believe it. I remember screaming in my apartment because I was so excited.
Yeah.
And then when it said it was just myself and Jimmy Burrows, who is he retired, but he's a very big multicam
Yeah.
director. Myself, Madonna, and the other guy that was in the scene. So it was such a wonderful experience to be able to be on that set and watch how hard Madonna works. And I
Wow.
had met her a few times,
Oh
and
really?
I'm sure she wouldn't know. When I lived in Miami, I met her a couple times. And being on set, it was such a different ball game because
Yeah.
she was there to work.
Well, that's
And there was
great to
a fight
know.
scene. Yeah, fight scene. She was in the fight scene. She
Yeah.
had, uh, I think she had body doubles in there as well. But one of the things that I learned from being on that set was number one, comedy with
Mm.
Jimmy Burrows. Number two, when somebody is that famous, I remember her being like, I would never say that. It was something about J-Lo. I was like,
Yeah.
oh, I would never say that to Jimmy Burrows. Right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
he's
Yeah.
it'd be funny if you say it. It's like, oh, he's calling her M. You know, it's like all this kind of insider stuff.
Yeah.
And then we had the choice, I think, to go back to wherever we were, like whether it was the green room or a trailer. I don't remember it being a trailer. And I thought, no, I want to sit on this set and I want to watch. I
Yeah.
want to watch the work and how these actors and this major star performs. And it was better than I could have ever gotten, I think, at a college or university.
Yeah. Because you get to see the actual work being done. You're seeing people, you're seeing how it's done. You're not seeing it done in this vacuum like it is in conservatory. I mean, conservatory is good. It teaches you a lot, but
Sure.
when it comes to the business, it's really lacking. And I still am like amazed. I'm like, why aren't we trying to fix that? Like, you need to figure out a way to put that into the curriculum, the business of how to handle that. Because if you can't do that, it's like, I'm still amazed that in elementary school we don't teach time management, because if you don't know how to do time management, what can you do? You can't
That's a
really
good
do
point.
anything.
It's a great point.
You know what what do you think is the hardest thing that you find to coach actors on?
Being themselves,
Really?
not performing,
Mhm.
knowing who they are when they present themselves in the world, your brand,
Yeah,
types of roles that you can play, bringing your unique voice to your work and just going for it. Those are
yeah,
big, bold choices. And I want to see that every time from you, because then
yeah,
when something comes down the pipeline that you're right for, you're the first person that we're thinking of. Oh, we've got to call on Justin for this.
yeah. You know what I think where a lot of that comes from is when you're in conservatory, you're doing theater, you're kind of taught to just be, neutral. And when you come into audition, you need to bring like your own essence. You can't just be. It's a different type of thing. Whereas with theater, you can indicate a little bit more. You can't do that on camera because it'll look like, it'll look like, but from, the audience there, you can do a little bit, you can prepare a little bit of that stuff, but that stuff doesn't work on the film. And I feel like sometimes we're forgetting that there's two different mediums here on how to do this work.
Right. Right.
It's
Good. Yeah.
that. Because for me, I was always like, okay, I don't want anything of me in there. And it's like, I would talk to my mother and she'd be like, well, Justin, I think there is some of you in there. And I'm like, no, no, I want to be there. And it's like, and then I started reading about it. And I was like, well, a lot of the actors that I like, yeah, they actually are bringing themselves to it, because there's just some things that you can't, and that's a good thing. Like you can tell here, I have a natural curiosity for absolutely everything, and, and driven. That's like me, is I really am just curious about everything, um but that's fascinating that you find that it's hard for people to just do you think it's because of the way acting training is, or do you think it's something that they've convinced themselves of?
How do you mean?
Like,
Clarify.
do you think it's something that's like beaten out of them in going to a conservatory, or is it something that they think acting is? Like they
I
think
think
that
it
like,
I think it could be both. I don't know because I didn't go to conservatory. I went to
mm,
Playhouse West. I studied with a different acting teacher for
yeah,
7 years. I kind of bounced around. My only experience is when actors come to me from conservatory or a
yeah,
university or college, and the acting is amazing.
yeah,
It, my job to meld the branding with the acting, the business with the acting with the auditioning,
yeah,
how to audition for a commercial versus a procedural versus an indie film versus a big action film
yeah,
versus drama or comedy or streaming. All of those different genres take a different skill set. They're not a huge skill set. You just have to know and tweak it for each one.
mm. So that's something you gotta kind of do you find it's kind of mean to say this, to put, conservatory and theater actors in the same thing, but do you find the volume is something you have to work with them a lot on?
It's a quick adjustment.
Yeah.
I don't feel like the theater actor's like, oh, I don't know what that means. I
Yeah.
think a lot of theater actors that I work with are aware and conscious. Am I being too big? Do I need to dial it back? And my job is to give them permission to still be themselves and not dial it
Yeah.
back so much that it's flatline in one note
Yeah.
because you're scared that you're going to be too big. It's the easiest direction to give an actor in a callback room. When I've
Yeah.
watched directors just, yeah, great, just dial it back.
Yeah.
Great, just ground it a little bit more. Okay.
Yeah.
It's so
Just
much
take that
easier to
out.
do that than try to like work to get an actor into high stake opinions and choices.
Yeah. 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 It's easier to take them down than it is to like, bring them up. It's like, I need you to be bigger here, but no, we just need to take this down. Please like, share, and subscribe. Thank you.